Hey, what's going on, everybody? Scoot back here just a little bit so I'm in the plane of focus. All right, rock and roll. Welcome, everybody. What a fun time when Bitcoin's at previous all-time highs. You're always in for a good time. Let's put it that way. Let's go ahead and get my screen sharing going. Pop into the chat if everything's all good on your end. Yep, exactly, David. Stay long and chill. And altcoins are going to make a big comeback as well. So stay long and chill with those as well. Okay, let me go and share my screen. I'm going to present my half, and then I'm going to hand it over to Brett, and then I have to go pick up my car at the shop because I drive a Tesla, and amazingly, the other night, it just completely bricked, like flat out, dead to the world. Doors won't open, just bricked. Turns out there's a 12 volt battery that like the kind of battery you keep in a normal gas car, right? That runs the electrics. It's surprisingly the same way with Tesla. It's just a 12 volt battery, but that also controls the electronics. It's the humongous battery packs under the bottom that move the car. And apparently there was a short in it, and on top of that, because when it's super super hot outside, it can short that battery out, which basically effectively bricks your car. So pretty crazy. Up. Okay, sorry. Let me kill this other app so my video is not running in two places at once. Thanks, Brett. So in any case, there we go. Yeah, I had to kill that second application that I was using because I got to make sure that I'm in focus with this camera, and I keep that on, check it, and then usually I close that out before I open Zoom, so I'm not futzing with the camera when we go live. So in any case, it's taken 4 days. The car's finally done, so I got to go pick that up from the shop, so I'm not carless this whole time. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure I'm sharing. Yes, you can see my Firefox window. And here we are. So we're in a green day. Alts are looking good. Bitcoin's looking good. We're nearing all-time highs again. We just barely tapped it. We re-tapped a brand new all-time high yesterday, pulled back just a little bit as we are one to do. People love selling the previous all-time highs. And then I think we're going to move up in a very big way from here. So let's continue on. So this is something I've been keeping my eye on. Right now, Bitcoin's at 11,460 according to Bitstamp, which I think is always a good proxy for the main price. The story of the Bitcoin dominance has just been one of complete and total undefeatedness. Right? We had a little mini alt season from like November through December, like 1 month of alt moves, and then Bitcoin just continued to retake it as alts bled out and Bitcoin continued to run upwards. This can only go so high before we see some capital rotation. And I don't know where that's going to happen, but I think eventually we're going to see this. Once the money printing really, really starts in earnest, once interest rates come down, that kind of thing, because we're still at pretty high interest rates, relatively speaking, versus the last mega altcoin run we had. We were at like zero interest rates. I think as that comes down, we're going to see alts finally take the stage here. But for right now, Bitcoin remains undefeated. And that's why we always talk about have a core position of your crypto portfolio in Bitcoin specifically, because there's nothing else is going to outpass Bitcoin. On a long enough time scale, right? Short time scales, altcoins can have their day in the sun. So one thing that's pretty interesting is if we look at Trueflation, all the fear mongering over the tariffs creating massive inflation have been dead wrong. Now, granted, to be fair, the tariffs didn't really go into massive effect. I think we've got a 10% tariff across the board, if I remember correctly. In actual effect, we've threatened much higher. And I think if we implemented much higher, that would be a major problem. But so far, inflation is still down compared to, the craziness, right? I mean, what was it? Liberation Day happened in April, I believe, on April 5th, when inflation was its lowest. So technically speaking, we went from 1.2 up to 1.9 right now. So we have seen an increase in inflation. We're still well under the Fed's 2% target. So the Fed is just playing political games at this point. They have no excuse anymore. They must start cutting, and I think they'll probably start doing that. I would assume, unless Powell is just playing the crazy politics game, there's really no reason not to do the cut moving into September. It's kind of crazy that he's waiting until then instead of doing it at the end of this month, because the jobs market is starting to lose some steam, and they need to make sure that doesn't happen. If we look at Bitcoin fear and greed, we're at 71. Pretty wild, right? The fact that we are now at basically the previous all-time highs, and we're only at a 71 greed. We got a lot of gas in this tank before before Bitcoin gets out over its skis too high. And then altcoins are still at 58. We have not hit despair in altcoins like we did back here earlier last month, a couple weeks ago. But, we're not really in mega greed yet either. And then the last thing I'm going to pull before I go into some of the news that's going to affect our altcoins bags is that so far, according to Polymarket, on the July 30th Fed meeting, there's like a 95% chance that Powell is not going to change rates. And if we look at the CME FedWatch tool, same thing, 93% chance of no change. When we move it out to September, FedWatch shows a 64% chance. So not great, but not 50-50 anymore. It's still amazing to me it's still this low, but 64% chance of a 25 basis point cut. And according to Polymarket, we're only at about a 48% chance. So about 50-50 coin toss on whether we're going to get a rate cut or not in September, which I think Powell's making a huge mistake here. He's always behind the eight ball, just completely screwing up. And then if we look further out into December, it's like a 50-50 coin toss, essentially, whether we get one or two cuts by December. But that's year's end. And so far, I think this is about all it's going to show us in October. Again, only a 52% chance of a 25 basis point cut from where we are now, according to Polymarket. So it just seems like the market is really pricing in Powell being a stick in the mud here and just not playing ball. And that's why Trump has been so loud about getting him replaced. Now, granted, he's still got another 11 months on his tenure, but it's looking like he might nominate Besant to do this, right? To take over his place whenever his time is up, unless he steps down. So let's talk about some Bitcoin craziness. So Bitcoin soars to new all-time high above 112,000 as traders liquidate shorts. So the shorts got squeezed. Bitcoin's price momentum is benefiting from a reset in over-leveraged participants that created a healthier foundation for continuation, analysts from Bitfinex Exchange told Cointelegraph, adding, quote, the convergence between on-chain accumulation and off-chain exchange order flow paints a compelling picture. This rally has been built on solid ground, supported by real capital flows rather than short-lived speculative leverage. So yes, we did get a bit of a short squeeze, but this whole move up from the 98K level we were at just a handful of weeks ago, 3 weeks-ish ago, was built on spot buying. It wasn't just nonstop shorts getting squeezed. So that's good. So the Bitcoin rally is driven by an increasing safe haven status, according to Sygnum Bank research lead. Bitcoin's uptrend since Trump's Liberation Day announcement on April 2nd is driven by growing recognition as a safe haven. So since April 2nd, Bitcoin has, quote, been outperforming as well as increasingly decoupling on days when the S&P 500 corrected. So it's been moving not necessarily in opposite, but uncorrelated to the S&P 500. Quote, this has been supported by Bitcoin's increasing status as a safe haven asset in the face of fiat debasement. And, I've said this multiple times, is that this is the trade of our entire generation. And not that you have to be my age to be considered our generation, but the trade of this time period, is the trade of total and utter fiat debasement worldwide. So if you think that fiat currency is going to keep losing value with increasing speed, then you just need to get long assets and chill. Because people who are getting crushed are those sitting in cash, those who are sitting in bonds, those who are fixed income investors are getting screwed. Absolutely screwed, because they're going to keep debasing the currency. So what is surprising to me is that they are debasing the absolute hell out of the dollar, right? The dollar has lost, 10% against a basket of other currencies, which are also losing value. It just means the US dollar has lost more value much quicker. So if the US dollar is losing its value, if that happens and they start printing even more money, we're not going to stay at this 1.68% inflation rate. I just don't see a world or how that's going to balance, in which case we keep devaluing the US dollar and yet inflation stays low. Usually it's the opposite, right? So in 2020, when Trump started printing money like a madman to offset the self-imposed shutting off of the entire world's economy, and all other government banks did the same thing. They just started printing money with reckless and wild abandon. And that's when we saw the inflation rate go through the roof. So we can't, just keep printing money and whatnot, which looks like we're about to do, and have this level remain low. So what this means in the end of it is that we are going to get another, K-shaped market move, where unfortunately the rich are going to get richer and the poor and middle class get left behind because they don't have as much excess capital to invest in assets like Bitcoin, like stocks, like, real estate. And those things are just going to keep moving upwards compared to the devaluation of the currency. So let's go back to this. This has been supported by Bitcoin's increasing status as a safe haven asset in the face of fiat debasement. Also confirmed by the first U.S. state signing a Bitcoin reserve bill into law. Thank you, Texas, and thank you, I believe it was New Hampshire, following the federal Bitcoin reserve established by executive order. Bitcoin exchange reserves have also been in a steady decline since April, which is a sign of long-term confidence for Bitcoin investors that may lead to a shock or supply shock-driven rally. So this is the number of Bitcoin held on exchanges this year, and you can see that really since March, really since tariff day, the number of Bitcoin on exchanges just like dropped through the floor. It's remarkable to see the drop here. So Bitcoin reserves across all exchanges fell to 2.99 million Bitcoin on May 22nd, down from 3.11 million on March 13th. So people are pulling those coins off of exchanges, putting them into cold storage for long-term holding. That's good for you. Quote, see you at 150K, says Bitcoin Bull after Bitcoin taps new all-time highs. This is exciting for us, guys. There's something called price discovery. And price discovery is the moment in which an asset reaches a new price it has not hit before. In fact, let me cut some of these lines off of here. And while I've got this, I'm going to leave the TA to Brett. But it's pretty clear to see that we were bouncing within this kind of this channel. We came back up here, bounced off of it. We came back, test it, support it, break out from here. It's party time. Now, if you look at where we're at, though, if we draw a line right across where the previous high was, I mean, we're right there, right? So it's getting a little bit messy. Let me kill these lines here real quick. For just an easy view here, you can see that we tapped this previous high, sold off, tapped the high, people sell again. Once we break through this, this means that Bitcoin is cleared for takeoff. So if we look at it this way, once we break this line, there's no historical, since it literally by definition, after we break this line, everyone's in profit. There's really no monster sell block orders, right? So like, for example, if you bought right here, right at this previous peak in December at 109,000, and then it dumps back to like 89, a lot of people, once you hit 109 again, they're going to hit the sell button because they go, I just want to get out at break even, right? And so you can see this over time is that what happens with price discovery. Let me get rid of all this jazz here because there's a lot of old stuff on this chart. Let me get rid of that. Let me just get rid of everything. Let's start over. So some examples here. If we look back at, we can go way back here, right? But if we look at like 20K in 2017 was the top, right? We have this huge bear market. We come back up. Once we finally get into price discovery, which means we don't know what the price should be, right? Because every time you hit a previous price level, people take their break even, right? But once we hit 20K, everyone's in profit. We go flying, right? And we did. We went flying from 20K to 42 right off the bat, right? And then we dropped off. Once we hit 42 again, we go launching straight back up, price discovery again to 80 or to 60. And then if we look at this, we had a double top here in 2021. And then let's look here. So this one was a little different, I think, and probably if you look at it a longer timeline, we did technically break through. We kind of went from 69 to 75, but didn't significantly break through it. But really, once we did finally break through here, you can see people are trying to sell that top. We go from the 74K up to 110, 112. And so the same thing's about to happen again. Once we break past this 112,000, it's just party time, right? Because there's really no anchor, anyone with huge sell orders over that, aside from people just taking profit, not trying to get out at break even. So that's really great. That's what we want to see. So Bitcoin could be heading to 150,000 after spiking to a new all-time high of 112 on Wednesday. And technically speaking, I think the previous high was like 111,998. So I think we beat it by like $2. Still counts. Quote, see you at 150K. Milk Road co-founder Kylie Reidhead, that's a different name instead of Redhead, Reidhead said on an X post on Wednesday, referencing a previous post in late June showing a bullish cup and handle formation that he said will push Bitcoin to 150. This has been Bitcoin's much-needed boost. Just hours before Bitcoin's new all-time high, economist Timothy Peterson told Cointelegraph that if Bitcoin doesn't hit new highs within the next 2 weeks, the asset likely won't be able to come close until October. Sentiment is increasing is too. Market Fear and Greed Index for crypto, which measures overall crypto market sentiment, spiked 5 points to a greed score of 71 out of 100. So there we go. Meanwhile, Bitcoin, the Coin Market Cap Altcoin Season Index signals that the market is heavily favoring Bitcoin with a Bitcoin season score of 26 out of 100. I think Brett might have shared that in the M3 group as well. So in comments sent to Cointelegraph eToro analyst Josh Gilbert says this is the first real bull market where institutional participation is front and center. Strong ETF flows and a solid macro backdrop have helped drive market momentum. But perhaps the most crucial shift, this is key, guys, is who is buying. In July alone, there have been approximately $1 billion inflows into U.S. spot Bitcoin ETFs. It's clear this momentum is being driven by institution, not retail investors. In 2021, we hoped that it was institutions that was driving it, but it was still just retail, excited by the idea of institutions. Once the ETF wrapper has been approved, I think that's been the story of this whole bull run. That is why Bitcoin dominance is just blasting with like really no real pullback. It's because people keep buying the Bitcoin ETF and surprisingly not the Ethereum ETF. Over the past 24 hours, approximately $217 million in Bitcoin short positions were liquidated. So that caught a lot of traders off guard. Data also shows that, get this, there's 1.6 billion in short positions at risk of liquidation if Bitcoin moves another few thousand to 115 grand. So if we, that move yesterday, that little spike there was created by 217 million in Bitcoin shorts being liquidated. There's 1.6 billion if we get to 115. So believe me, big money makers in the market are going to try to push this thing up to liquidate a huge amount of Bitcoin positions, or Bitcoin shorts. All right, so this just continues. This is a story of ETFs just destroying everything in a good way for Bitcoin and clearing the way. Also, Bitcoin treasury companies are just buying massively. You don't see that as much with Ethereum treasury companies or Solana treasury companies or whatever. So Bitcoin treasury companies have acquired a record 159,107 Bitcoin just in Q2 alone. That is insane. Corporate interest in Bitcoin hits new all-time highs in the second quarter of 2025, with companies adding a record 159,107 Bitcoin to their balance sheets, worth over 17.6 billion at current prices. The figure marked a 23.13% quarter-on-quarter increase. So from Q1 to Q2, we have a 23% increase in Bitcoin treasury holdings, bringing the total corporate Bitcoin holdings to 847,000 Bitcoin, or about 4% of the capped 21 million supply. So guys, this is wild because there's no other asset on earth that has a hard fixed supply like this. Stocks can always issue new stocks. Gold can always be found by increasing the amount of investment in mining. There's nothing as hardcore flat, quantity as Bitcoin. So the number of Bitcoin or public companies holding Bitcoin also jumped sharply, with 46 new firms entering the space, raising the total to 125. Think about this, guys. There's only 125 public companies. There are thousands of public companies just in the US alone. Only 125 own Bitcoin. This is like the early internet days where there's only 125 companies who have a corporate website. This is crazy. So it's a 58% increase quarter on quarter. So we are really moving here. Pretty wild. Top companies, Strategy, of course, MicroStrategy, Mara Holdings, Bitcoin Miner, 21, Riot Platforms, and Metaplanet out of Japan. So Saylor keeps leading the move here. He's got 597,325 coins. Strategy of Bitcoin accumulation has also fueled a strong performance in his stock price. The company stock is up 43% year to date, far outperforming the S&P 500's modest 6.4% gain over the same period. So Bitcoin miner Mara Holdings is the second largest holder of Bitcoin corporately with almost 50,000 Bitcoin. Company shares have gained more than 10%. New entrants are also making waves in the Bitcoin treasury space. 21 launched with a $685 million capital raise, quickly deploying over $450 million into Bitcoin. In Japan, Metaplanet has emerged as a powerhouse, dominating Tokyo's trading volume and even surpassing household names like Toyota and Sony, while amassing 13,350 Bitcoin. Meanwhile, GameStop grabbed headlines with its first ever Bitcoin purchase last month, adding 4,710 Bitcoin to its balance sheet and further cementing the trend of non-crypto native companies entering the space. So that's worth note, right? It's not just Bitcoin companies, right? There's starting to be other companies that are just rock and rolling here. Trump Media also entered into the fray, filing to raise $2.5 billion for further Bitcoin accumulation. So the president's company is also going to be buying billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. Pretty wild. That's nuts. So let's move over to a bit more discussion about altcoins. When alt season? So David says, also why there hasn't been an alt season, the ETF investors are not looking at alts or buying any crypto themselves. True. I think, however, that's going to change. I really can't say why the Ethereum ETF has not done more than it has, but I think that the Solana ETF is going to be a big move for Solana. Plus, the Ethereum ETF came out at a really terrible time. It came out right as we were moving into like a mini bear market after the Bitcoin induced ETF run. So I think that the timing of a Solana ETF later this year, which I'll talk about shortly, could be a big deal here. So there's a couple things we need to talk about. Let's talk about the Bonk cryptocurrency, which was a previous Moonstream coin pick. So they have launched Let's Bonk, which is overtaking the Pump.Fun decentralized meme coin creation platform on Solana. Are Solana meme coins back for good? So Pump.Fun, which was previously responsible for like 80% of the Solana revenue. Like Pump.Fun made it easy to where anyone who doesn't know how to code could just go upload a photo, an image, literally like name their token, decide here's how many are going to be issued, pay a small fee, and then boom, it's live, right? So that is what led to a tremendous amount of meme coin activity on the Solana chain. So Pump.Fun has lost its spot as Solana's top meme coin launchpad for the first time since its breakout, overtaken by rookie platform Let's Bonk. Supporting metrics hint that Solana may be on the rise again, driven by a potential expansion in meme coin activity. Now, the warning for Solana is the risk for Solana is that it solely becomes a meme coin chain. And so in the next bear market, which there will always be a next bear market, or when the money spigot gets turned off and greed drops, this could really sink Solana massively. It's not going to kill it, but it could massively sink it if you don't have real, actual business stuff built on it like Ethereum. So it's just right now, Ethereum, I think, is not taking off, even though it's got like all the best actual DeFi stuff built on it, because frankly, a lot of people just would rather gamble, right, than do banking on the blockchain. I think over time that's going to change, but let's continue on here. So since Let's Bonk started really taking off, Solana's network has lit up. Gas usage per transaction hasn't skyrocketed, but the sheer flood of transactions, especially from token mints, basically creating new meme coins, and swaps, has driven total fees and validator tip income noticeably higher. So you look at percentage of market share, and Let's Bonk now has 50.4% of the market share of Solana. Pump.Fun is at 37%, so it's really fallen big time. So Solana's activity flatlines, but the DEX revenue pops up behind Let's Bonk. Let's Bonk rise on Solana has reignited enthusiasm among meme coin fans coming down from peak season earlier this year. On July 9th, Let's Bonk recorded over 22,000 token mints just on July 9th, just yesterday. 22,000 new meme coins, compared to Pump.Fun's only 8,334. So people are vapid and people go where the action is. So if suddenly the hip thing to do is go to Let's Bonk, that's where all the traders are going to go, because that's where all the meme coin activity and gambling and shitcoining is. So so Let's Bonk captured more than 50% of the market share. Despite Let's Bonk's surge, total token mints on Solana have remained largely flat over the past 3 months. So by the number of new tokens being added is 40,000, 50,000 a day, which is crazy talk. Pump.Fun's output continues to fall, suggesting that the meme coin revival may be more of a shift in platform dominance rather than it being meme coin season. Bonk uses half of its fees to buy and burn Bonk tokens, building trust and loyalty. So unlike other tokens that just effectively keep printing new coins forever, which devalue the currency, Bonk uses half of its fees to buy and burn Bonk tokens to kind of keep that supply in check. So Bonk's simplicity and lower fees also attract many new investors who avoided Pump.Fun's complexity and scams. Outside of token launches, Solana's total transaction count has been trending down, but a complex look reveals a more complex picture. So the validator transactions have declined. Non-vote transactions are on the rise, largely driven by Let's Bonk's meme coin surge resurgence. Let's Bonk has noticed increases in overall token launches and trading activity, translating directly into higher transaction volumes on DEXs like Radium. Radium's been one of the biggest winners. The DEX now collects fees not seen since the meme coin frenzy of early 2025. If you remember, the peak meme coin was when Trump announced the Trump meme coin at his inauguration. That was the peak. It's been downhill ever since, so it's finally starting to turn back around. It's funny, it takes about 6 months for people to forget the pain. So everybody lost their asses on meme coins. It's been 6 months now, and now they went, oh yeah, we can make money in doing this, and they forget, all the pain there. In April, Let's Bonk partnered with Radium to give creators access to the exchange's liquidity pool and trading bots. So, according to Connor Grogan, the head of product at Coinbase, bots are likely behind the majority of tokens launched on both Pump.fun, and Let's Bonk. So, this is not individual creators anymore. This is people who are basically creating scripts to go and just create tons and tons and tons and tons of tokens, hoping that one of them is going to hit with like basically no effort, really. The top accounts launch on average one new token every 3 minutes. So there are bots now that 24/7 are just creating a new shitcoin, a new meme coin every 3 minutes. And there's, probably hundreds of bot accounts doing this, right? Just hoping that one of them hits because there's zero input, right? There's no real effort required. Grogan also pointed to a specific account he tracked in January, which had created over 18,000 tokens on Pump.fun. So one person running a bot created 18,000 meme coins just in January. Initially, the account appeared to be operating manually, launching roughly 12 tokens per hour for months. So manually doing this by hand. Eventually, the account's activity was replaced by bots. That's bonkers, right? Austin Federa, then the head of strategy at the Solana Foundation, defended high bot usage on the network. A lot of people are criticizing this. Bots pay fees. Just to be clear, he said, that's the point of this. People are saying it's not fair. Bots are doing all this stuff, so on and so forth. He says, but that's the point of a network like Solana. There's a lot of stuff that's not economically viable and not economically possible in the Ethereum ecosystem today. So you end up getting a lot more garbage when fees are near zero. And that's essentially what people love about Solana. Fees are super cheap, right? So that's where I think Ethereum can carve out its niche as an actual banking layer. And I think that until proven otherwise, Solana just ends up being like, Las Vegas and in the crypto space. So Let's Bonk and meme coins pick up where Solana ETFs or NFTs left off. Bonk is doing something similar to Pump. It's not just about launching a token or coin, it's about launching into a meme native economy. The Bonk buy and burn mechanism gives participants a shared economic stake. So it gives them an economic reason to use this platform instead of the competitor. So liquidity hasn't vanished. By the way, the reason I'm talking about all this is I know a lot of us have bags of Solana we want to see do well. And so any kind of good news on Solana, even if it's just meme coin bullshit, is good for our bags. So that's why I'm talking about this, is that if we have a meme coin season, that's going to push Solana upwards. Validator tip income is growing. The success of Bonk shows there's still an appetite for new narratives as long as they're framed right. Even Pump.fun, with all of its baggage, continues to churn massive volume. Now, meme culture on Solana appears to be maturing with more structure, coordination, and purpose. So everything seems like a toy when it first comes out in tech until it finds a real use case. And Bonk continues to do that. And let's continue on with our Solana. Solana price bull chart hints at $300 as Solana ETF approvals odds hit 99.7%. It's party time, folks. Solana's price printed a bull flag pattern on the daily chart, technical chart formation associated with a strong bullish momentum following an upward breakout. So this price targets $300 in this particular pattern. Solana price technicals show that it could gain momentum if it breaks out of a bull flag pattern on the daily chart or daily candle chart. Bull flags typically resolve after the price breaks upward above the trend line and rises by as much as the previous trend's height. This puts the upper target for Solana at $303 or 100% from where it's at now. So you can see this height, we go into this flag, we break out, you copy that height again, we're at $300. The daily RSI is moving above the midline, meaning the strength index is about balanced. From near oversold conditions at 31 on June 22nd, which happened to be the bottom, indicating increasing bullish momentum. To ensure a sustained recovery, the Solana USD pair must first overcome the resistance between 155 and 165, which are also the 50 and 200-day simple moving averages. Once we beat that, it's party time. My targets are sitting at $200, $300, and then uncharted territory at $500, according to Crypto Bits on X. Of course, as this price goes up, the target becomes less likely. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to hit $500 Solana. A recent X analysis by market analyst Alec Carter suggests the strong fundamentals in Solana snapping its multi-month downward trend path, put it on a path to $300. Solana, best looking chart I've ever seen, hitting hard fundamentally too. And this just broke the downtrend, and the reason is immense utility. Every action is pointing us towards one thing. Solana coming targets 280 to 300, and you can see this cup and handle, and it's party time. The Solana ETF approval odds just jumped to 99.7%. So basically, it's a lock. It's just a matter of what time of year it's going to finally be approved. Likelihood of the SEC approving a spot Solana ETF in 2025 jumped to 99.7%, which looks great. Multiple spot ETFs for Solana and from asset management giants like Van Eck, Grayscale, 21 Shares, Bitwise, and Canary Capital signal robust demand for regulated Solana investment vehicles. So James Seifert, who's kind of been the king here from Bloomberg, he's the guy at Bloomberg who covers all the ETFs, expects a new wave of ETFs in the second half of 2025. So this could be one of the things that sparks the altcoin season that we've been waiting for, especially as people start front running this. People don't wait until the ETF is approved when it's already got 99% approval rates. So the approval of spot Solana ETFs could unlock institutional capital, amplifying demand for Solana and potentially driving prices higher, with some analysts predicting targets as high as $1,300 for Solana. That sounds crazy, but I've seen crazier in the past. Now, let's continue on about what Pump Fund is going to do to win its market share back. And again, this is just something that's very positive for Solana overall, right? That's why I'm talking about this. Pump.fun token sale confirmed. So one thing that Pump.fun is going to do right now, it's just an exchange, right? The Bonk, Let's Bonk has its own token. So clearly it makes, at this point, it's amazing to me that any kind of platform that is built on a blockchain doesn't have its own token, essentially. And that's what they're doing. So Pump.fun, token sale confirmed. Europe-based users are banned, of course, because as they say, the US innovates and the EU legislates. They have zero interesting things going on in the EU in terms of anything tech, crypto, or anything. All they do is just make rules for everybody else to have to follow. Bybit will host Pump.fun's Pump token sale, but users in Europe will be excluded due to regulatory exclusions. The sale of Pump, the native token of the no-code meme coin launchpad Pump.fun, will open on Saturday and run through Tuesday. A total of 150 billion Pump tokens, 15% of the $1 trillion total supply, will be offered at a fixed rate of 0.004 cents per token. That's pretty crazy, though, that they're only doing 15% of the supply. That's going to create a price pump. The problem is that then there's still another 85% of the token left over that they own, which is crazy. Bybit, currently the world's second largest crypto exchange by trading volume, is the only major platform participating in the sale. In a Wednesday post on X, shortly after the sale was revealed by Bybit, Pump.fun officially announced the token sale. Quote, "Our plan is to kill Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch on Solana." So it sounds like instead of just essentially being a meme coin shit platform, they're going to try to maybe become a social media platform somehow with tokens involved in the mix. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. I know with Pump.fun, you can stream yourself doing things to promote your token. Maybe this just becomes a thing where, God, imagine this. Imagine all these ridiculous vapid influencers all have their own token they're all flogging instead of like lip fillers and all this other garbage they're filling on Instagram and pumping their own products. It sounds like a nightmare to me. Pump.fun launched in 2024. January quickly rose to prominence for letting people create meme coins with zero coding skills. The crypto community has been divided in its response. While some expressed excitement about potential listings and trading opportunities, others have criticized the platform's impact on the space. Basically, people fairly say it's just a complete gambling, degenerate, gambling place, which is true. Data from DeFi Llama shows Pump.fun, get this, guys, has already generated nearly $715 million in revenue in the last year and a half. Think about that. A new startup has generated $715 million in real money, in real business, right? In real revenue. That's wild. The platform has generated over $35 million in the past month alone. Like if you're a startup investor, I mean, that's the kind of thing you want, right? Now, if they could ever get it to the point where they totally make this thing, all the tokens are out there and all the revenue from this platform was divided amongst token holders, I mean, that would just send this thing to the moon. That's ultimately how these things are going to go. That is the entire point. So Pump.fun's momentum has already declined despite the hype around this token sale. Pump.fun volumes have plummeted about 75% since the peak in January. And as we talked about, guys, the way that you get people back on board is you give them financial incentives. So if the value of Pump.fun starts getting, the revenue from this platform shared back to token holders, that's how you make sure that this token and this platform gets more and more loyalty. It's like the ultimate customer loyalty rewards. And essentially, that's kind of what the Let's Bonk platform is doing, right? Although instead of sharing revenue, they're just using half of the revenue to buy back and burn the tokens. Different ways to skin a cat there. On Monday, Cointelegraph reported that the emerging launchpad Let's Bonk outpaced Pump.fun's daily revenue, bringing in $1 million on the day. What I wouldn't do to own that business. and signaling a potential shift in meme coin dominance. So, last two things I'll share with you. Not that one. There we go. This one. Last one thing I'll share with you, and then I'll turn it over to Brett. Um, this is pretty interesting. So you look at, the EU is always really slow to adopt things, right? Tech wise. The only thing they're really good at is seemingly is just like trying to put their footprint on US tech companies and suing the absolute hell out of tech giants. But anyway, so this is pretty interesting. Germany's banking giants are moving into crypto. So Germany is really the head of the EU. They are the most powerful. They are the most economically advantaged. So what goes there could probably ripple out throughout the rest of Europe. So this is pretty wild. Deutsche Bank, with more than 1.6 trillion euros, $1.9 trillion in assets under management, and the Sparkassen Finanzen Group, I can't even say that, which oversees 2.3 trillion, are preparing to launch regulated crypto services for institutional and retail clients by 2026. So while it's slow moving, this is a huge thing, right? So we talk about what kind of things could pull more people into crypto, pump our bags, and it's frankly bigger and bigger capital pools finally getting their ass in the game. And when an entire country finally decides to make it to where banks can now introduce this to their clients, just like ETF wrappers, this brings in a whole new pool of capital that wasn't available before. Deutsche Bank is developing a crypto custody service tailored for institutional clients. So they seem to be focusing on the institutions. Sparkassen Group, serving nearly 50 million Germans through its app, plans to embed crypto retail trading directly into its existing mobile infrastructure with a go-live target of mid-2026. So basically, they're trying to pull the Robin Hood equivalent and German natives. So Volksbanken, I'm not going to attempt that word, Germany's cooperative banking network is following suit. These coordinated moves come on the heels of the MiCA regulation rollout, which offers long-awaited legal clarity for digital asset services across the EU. So the EU finally is getting, this all ironed out legally. So now all of a sudden the big boys can get in without any legal risks of operating in a gray market. For traditional banks, the timing's perfect. The risk of early entry has passed, and the frameworks for regulated crypto in Germany are, as of 2025, clearly defined. So this is a green light for German multinational mega banks to go, hey, it's party time. We're getting in. So Deutsche Bank is in. Sparkassen Group is in. They serve half of Germany's population, 2.3 trillion in assets, 370 local banks. It plans to roll its crypto trading out in their app. So the Volksbanken, it serves 700 banks and $500 billion in assets. 587 billion in assets, $500 billion in assets. Exploring crypto services through its backend provider, Altruvia, and whatever digital. So what are they building? So crypto adoption by traditional banks. Deutsche Bank is preparing to launch a fully regulated crypto custody service in 2026. Looks like Bitcoin is now breaking out. We are definitely at new highs of 112,618. The custody offering is a necessary backbone for many serious institutional crypto services in Europe. So again, these guys are going for the institutions. Sparkassen's group is focused squarely on the consumer. And Deutsche Bank L2, they're building their own L2 blockchain, which is pretty rad. I think ultimately these banks are going to have to get into the game where they are a protocol. So why does this matter? The first time banks and institutions have a unified legal framework for offering regulated crypto services in Germany and beyond. It eliminates the gray areas that once kept crypto at arm's length. This is great. Sparkassen's move is particularly symbolic. Just a decade ago, it blocked consumer access to crypto. Now the group is set to enable Bitcoin and Ether trading for 50 million users. I wonder if they're going to send an apology for missing out on a 200x increase in price by blocking that. The bigger picture is ultimately this. If Germany's rollout under MiCA succeeds, it could spark a domino effect, prompting other EU banks to enter the space under the same framework. So they're already doing it. And Bitcoin is now officially off and running. We are breaking through live. We're now at 112,716. It is freaking party time, folks. This tells me that we are now at new highs, which means that we are now into price discovery. Get ready for alts to start soaring, which they already are right now. And with that, I could not pick a better time to go and pick up my car. Let's see here. Mike, can you talk about any idea what would be the FTM of this cycle? I don't know, honestly. Yeah. So far it has surprised me that it's all been like dog-themed bullshit cryptocurrencies. Those have been the biggest winners. Maybe the FTM of this cycle is Fartcoin. It's silly, but like it's just dumb as hell that like the dumbest stuff has had some of the biggest moves. It's really been quite different this time around than the last time around. And I think that part of the challenge that we've had with alts this time is that when people are creating 18,000 tokens a month themselves as an individual and launching them on meme coins, now you've just got like, 20 million shit coins to absorb the same amount of capital that previously was in like 3 or 4 thousand, right? So it's just that is spreading everything much, much more thin. So to be fair and to be truthful, I really don't know. I mean, I think the coins that we've picked have a good shot. I've laid that out. The reason why I like each in each of our newsletters, but I really don't know. In fact, if I did, I'd just tell you to go all in. But uh, I really just don't know. I think it's just going to be exciting to see this thing break upwards and go into price discovery. But for now, I'm not quite sure what would be the next FTM this cycle.
Well, cool. No, you have to run. That was great, and thanks. So thanks everybody. Well, we're gonna dive in here. I'll go ahead and share my screen and let Mike go pick up his Tesla. At least it didn't catch fire or get
Yeah, it was the
vandalized.
small battery. If the big one caught fire, I'd be in big, big trouble. And so would the rest of the neighborhood.
Yeah, we'd be reading about it on the news. All
Yeah.
right, we'll let you go. Thanks. And so let's dive in, everybody. I am going to cover a lot of ground. Incidentally, we just had that breakout, the one we've been waiting for. So I just want to acknowledge that your patience and all of this pain we've been suffering over the past couple of years. I'm going to open this up. I had posted this earlier about an hour ago in the M3 Active Trader. When we see Bollinger Bands tightening like this, it's usually poised for a breakout to happen in the direction of the trend. So right on the class, this is history in the making. 112,693, everybody. We have now broken new all-time high and not touched on it and rejected, but this is going to surge, I believe. I think there's going to be a massive short squeeze. I know a very prominent day trader who's heavily short and bragging about how he shorted at 112. Well, he's getting wrecked right now, and a lot of other shorts are. There is also a massive liquidation target around 115K, so I would expect a surge to that. And a little bit of pullback here on the 1 hour, but this is where the big money comes in and says, all right, let's do this. So here again, we do need and want to close above 112. If we were to sell off, it's probably only temporary. I had been talking about the 3 scenarios. I've eliminated the other 2. Number 1 is we'd break up and keep going. And number 2 was this move breaking above this bull flag. This is time to pay attention, everybody. The bull flag here breaking above. We did get the retest, came down to the 21-day exponential moving average, and like clockwork, it is going higher. I don't believe at this point scenario 3 is off the table, that we would come back down here. Usually you get one. Well, the first time is a gift. We had our buy blocks down in here, and the reason that I wasn't making official calls to buy right there is we had missiles flying, Iran, Israel, big question mark. So we now have more certainty. We can't cry about wishing we could have bought back down in here. The signs were there. Some people in M3 did buy at 98K and this floor. So in hindsight, always 2020. Best thing we can do now, I would rather buy into certainty. I have been buying in the last few days, and so I'm fully invested now and believe it is only we're headed to 150K as I've marked here, and I have been forecasting for the last 2 years. So and it's ironic and not ironic, but it's validating that now we're seeing a lot of people coming out saying 150K, 150K. And if you're new here and wondering how we got to that, it was a pretty simple calculation, because in the last bull market, it was a simple Fibonacci projection to the high from the, let's see, if I go back to the last cycle, I have it. I have that study. We've just talked about it so many times, I don't want to keep bringing it up. But in the last cycle here, if you go high, low, I need to change which Fibonacci I'm on. Sorry, guys. I wasn't going to get into this today, so choosing another template. And the profit targets at the 3.618 was the last market cycle high to the penny, if we draw that correctly, right up in here. So therefore, it's reasonable to assume that possibly that we would see that play out one more time. And by drawing this kind of a thing down there at a 3.618 takes us to 150K and 200K. Now I'm going to cover briefly, and I did a more in-depth study on my projection of the next bear market low. I talked about it on Camel Finance this week. I did upload it last night on TradingView, so if you want, you can find all my past studies here. I'm not going to get into it today, but this is very interesting new study here, and I would check that out. It's called the Forecasting the Next Market Top and the Next Market Bottom. And I've revised my targets higher on Bitcoin to around 245,000 and 246,000 potentially. So let me drop that in the chat, and you can always Google Brett Fogel Trading View and pull up that study. Don't want to get off target here. We want to see and look for some buying opportunities today, because when these markets break out like this, everything goes. And Pendle, my alerts for Pendle just went off. That's one I was going to put a buy alert out on, and mentioned in M3 Trader yesterday. Because this is retire rich, and I want to make sure that the moves have confirmed, and on a longer macro basis, that's why I'm sometimes dropping the calls there earlier for a swing trade. But I want to make sure on the longer term time frames that they're going to last, because this is not like the day trading, swing trading group. So hopefully that makes sense and you guys appreciate that. And still, even on the daily, I mean, I've been saying for 6 months or so, I won't be fully bullish until Bitcoin closes above 112,000, and we haven't yet. We could still see this sell off, and this, it could be a bull trap still. And these are the things we kind of have to be ready for. But I feel that this is the time, and all the models that I have are showing that if we're going to hit these higher numbers, we got to get going. And for all the reasons that Mike mentioned today, it's go time. There's always a risk that things pull back a little bit, but it's if it does, it's only temporary. I think at this point we're going to close above 112K, and then we're going to blast off. So if you're on the sidelines, I would suggest now is the time to be getting back in. Always good to have some powder dry to buy pullbacks, but you may risk missing the bigger move. All right, and I think that the big move is going to lead with Bitcoin. We see ETH starting to curl up, and Solana kind of looking like it's ready to go again. I don't know. The charts recently on Solana haven't looked good. We'll revisit that. I thought we might pull back to 130 because all the money pushing into Bitcoin and sucking all the air out of the room. But there is so much money on the sidelines. I saw something earlier today saying that there's like $7 trillion or some huge number waiting on the sidelines in money market funds waiting to deploy. Okay, so let's look at some targets here. In terms of the bull flag breakout, where do I get 150K? That is on those Fibonacci projections, a number of other studies, and here are two. So a bull flag, as Mike already talked about, is the flagpole. So if this is the flag here, and there's two of them, so this one here from the low to the high, the measured move on that, he drew it a little differently. They sometimes are drawn in different ways. I draw it conservatively from the bottom, and that puts us at 150. If we were to draw it from the top, it goes a bit higher, and I do think we could throw over to around 162. Actually, I think this is doable based on my other chart, and I will be able to pull it up again. The path to 100K and 150K, and incidentally, that's a study that I've been covering on this on TradingView for over 2 years now, so you can kind of monitor that, and we can pull it up. And what's cool about these is that it will let you hit play and sort of follow up. So here's the last time I did an update on it was in August of 2024. Let's just pull that up here back when I was using white screens. So if I hit play,
okay, this is Brett from.
oh, that's a video. So I was hoping the chart would just play, but you can see the same targets and the reasons we've been following. And I don't really want to go through all of this, but for these are the reasons for 150K and ultimately 200K Bitcoin. Anyway, so that's there if you wanted to check that out. And back to here, the bull flag breakout. Again, I'm looking at 150K on that target, and also the macro longer term bull flag. You guys remember, we ran up into end of the year, December, and then we had this sort of bleed out there. Well, that then became a pretty long bull flag. Typically, they don't go that long. So, but if we draw the flagpole here and then extend that over, the same target also puts us at 150K, depending on where you put it. And I did sort of adjust the slope, but in that region, I've drawn it a little more carefully from time to time, and this is a bit sloppy. But anyway, points toward 150K. to 160,000, so that's good. I want to talk about money flow in M2. Now this is interesting because I have been playing around with different levels. M2 usually lags by 3 or 4 months. Saw a YouTuber say 6 months yesterday, and I had to correct her. No, it's not 6 months. However, the 70-day delay wasn't really working. I changed it to 84 days, which would be 4 months, and so that would be 12 times 7 is 84. But even that was starting to deviate. So I did key in 6 months that this lady was suggesting. That was way off. And in my mind, I felt the number 90. So I said, all right, let's try 90. 90 actually overlays pretty well. So it's a little beyond 4 months, but it tracks the movements a lot better. They are not going to track in terms of price. So you'll see that differently, and we can move these up and down. But look at this. At different times, this is matched almost exactly. And I don't know anyone talking about this, but it's really trying to time the moves. So at this point, what do we want to look at here? And so if it's a little bit of massaging. Of course, now I can't get it where I was looking at it yesterday, because sometimes the overlay is pretty accurate and it changes from time to time. Here, right there is what we're looking for. Okay, so, and the reason is the scaling is, if I go over here and if I merge all scales into the right, which normally we would do, it disappears. It's kind of a bug, and so I'm not going to do that, and so that's the best we can do. All right, just trust me, this is where we want to be watching. I've been playing around with this enough that this to me makes sense. So being aware of my own confirmation bias, getting it, but this really does look like it matches closely and that it's time to really push higher, and that's good news for us. So that's the M2 money supply. I want to get through this and get to some coins and see if there's anything we want to be buying too. Into the Dixie, kind of rejecting here. I want to be careful that we don't miss a break higher on the dollar, because generally that means and signals that Bitcoin's going to drop. Although we had this deviation here where Bitcoin and the DXY were going higher, so we don't place as much weight on it as we used to, and we don't want to see it going higher in the Bitcoin correction zone. We want to see it going lower into Bitcoin rally zone, and ultimately down below 95.5 Bitcoin super rally zone and down toward the 3-year cycle low. So that's really what we want to see, because last time we were down in this range, we were hitting new highs, new all-time highs back in January, and then into May, June, and then into the end kind of as it was ending. But down, this is Bitcoin super rally zone down below here, in case you're wondering where I came up with that. So anyway, keep going. That's all I had there. Let's go back to some charts. Let's see, Bitcoin pulling back a little bit on the 1 hour, 4 hour, but it still has more to go. The next 1 hour candle is 7 minutes. Not going to get into the weeds with the swing trading side of things. At any rate, any questions? I don't want to go too fast and lose everybody, but I want to get to the other things that are important. So Bitcoin, again, breaking 112. Dixie, not going to cover. We already did. Total market cap. Look at this, you guys. Bull flag, breakout. This is powerful, and this is important. I was a little concerned we'd come down and retest that $3 trillion mark, but this was the retest. So typically, strong resistance will break out and retest that. And if you'll remember, that $3 trillion level, very important on the total market cap, because that was the market cycle high last time. It wasn't the price of Bitcoin. It was this $3 trillion to the number, to the dollar almost, that triggered programmatic selling across the board. The powers that be said, hey, how high do you think we should let the market cap this time? The whales say, would go, well, I don't know, how about 3 trillion? All right, cool, I'll let everybody know. Programmed it all in. I don't have any direct evidence, but I mean, this was an exact touch, and then that was the bear market. So we want to be sort of mindful of that, but the fact that we've retested 3 trillion and gone back above is very important from a market structure point of view. So that being said, the bull flag here on this, on the total market cap, if we were to measure it over into a target, I had changed the slope of that a little bit. So again, these things aren't exact. If I really wanted to do it that way, so I've got too many lines here, so just to leave that on there so you can see what it is. Wait a minute. I'm going to get this right. I'm going to go from candle body to the top of the channel. And so that was a little bit tricky to draw this channel. Got a little lazy on that. So I want to, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So if that is the channel that we're going to work with, and on the bottom side, lower candle to lower candle, not using the wicks, that's a better drawn parallel channel. I didn't want to spend the time on it, but so let's say that's it, and then that gives us a flagpole of $4.8 trillion as a target, close to 5 trillion. If we draw it from the bottom of the bull flag, I don't want to get into technicals. Sometimes it draws like this. Point is, my targets for total market cap this cycle are 4.8 trillion to 6 trillion, which nearly doubles the total market cap. Could it go higher? It could, but I think we'll be better served by kind of being a little conservative about that and not get caught up in the hype cycle. Talked about that earlier today, and Camel had a new guest, Camel Finance, talking about the what did they say when people started raising their price targets? I forget the term, but I just said, well, I coined the term the hype cycle back in 2021 because I remember when all of the news became super bullish and Cathie Wood and everyone was raising their price targets. You know, something didn't sit right with me, and that was one of the silent factors that helped me sort of call the top in November of 21 and December and January, because if they have tons of Bitcoin to sell, they need the retail public believing it's going twice as high to buy all that up. And whether they sit around and plan it, that's what happens. Maybe it's a subconscious thing. But at any rate, look at the total market cap breaking out here. Beautiful sign, bull flag breakout. We do need to clear these levels. May have some pullbacks here and there, or we might blow through it. But I have this marked here, 3.6 TP sell zone. You know, might be worth taking some money off the table for a brief pullback, but I don't know. I think at this point there's so much momentum, we need to let it ride, because if we get into price discovery, these markets are going to take off. Let's see, your math here is times 1.4 is 4.8. Bitcoin, 112, 1.4. Okay, yeah, so that matches. Thank you for that. And I think that is the relative target. So since you brought that up, I think to circle the wagons on that, let me show that and just reiterate that target, because on my path to 150K, 200K Bitcoin, which is in here somewhere right down there, it shows a throw over with 150 being kind of the number we want. Let me just revisit this, and we'll get to the coins momentarily. But again, last cycle, Fibonacci high-low, put it right at to the top at the 3.618. Okay, so if we believe that, doesn't mean it has to happen again, but I just, for some dubious speculation, I drew it again. We've been following this for 2 years. Put the 1.618 at 100K, so we hit that, chopped around, rejected, came back up. The blue line is the same fractal from over here, and I get not everyone believes in fractals. It's just sort of a roadmap of possibility. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, and I massaged it a bit for the logarithmic chart. But it does show, if that's the last pattern, a throw over right up here to around 169K. Again, it's not going to be exact. The fib says 154K, though. That's pretty close. Then we get some kind of a pullback retracement to the line here, that fourth and final parabolic angle. To test that, if we can hold that and not lose that, if we lose that line, we have to sort of expect that that was the top, and we'll come here, get a bit of a bear market rally, or a bull market bear correction, bull correction, whatever, and then bounce and then drift over. So that's another scenario, but I don't think so, you guys. I think we come down to that area and then we push to 200K, and any pullback there could take us higher, and I'm going to maybe do that study for you guys if you want to, which is pretty interesting, and we have a new twist on it. So I can't seem to move that thing out of the way. But anyway, that's that target there. Let me jump back over to what we were talking about on this chart on total market cap. But anyway, good news on all of that. So that's total market cap. Taking a look at total 2, still have this big sell block. And now I was talking about this symmetrical wedge here, and it would have to break to the upside or the downside. Fortunately, it's breaking to the upside. Early clues were last week, getting above the 21-week and the 50-week exponential moving average. I'm trying to stay away from the trader lingo because this is retire rich. The problem here is, and this is my problem with Ethereum, huge sell block through here that doesn't really exist on total 3 as badly. It's higher on that, and that tells me that this is an Ethereum group of sellers. I think that this will get taken out though. Because I'm hearing, I have an ETH whale that I know and bought a lot of ETH early on. Just bought a 35 million, sorry, just built a $35 million house in Utah because he's got so much ETH. So he's saying that the Bitcoin whales are selling and buying ETH for the next push. So what we want to watch for here with ETH, and let's just say for a moment, we take our order block detector off. This is a pretty nice looking chart. It's a cup and handle, a potential breakout. So we want to put a breakout line right up in this range. I'm going to put it here because this is prior resistance as well. And we can go far back. I have had it drawn. So we had strong support here at 2,800 back in 2024. Maybe that goes farther back. We won't worry about it. But support, 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 broke down, became resistance, flipped back above, tried to be support, back to resistance, and dumped. And that was back earlier in the year. It came all the way down to 1,500 in retrospect. Great time to buy ETH. So, but right up in here, this is a cup and handle, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So the breakout here above, I'd say 3,000, and I've been saying that all week. I won't really be bullish on ETH until it gets back above 3K. Because we're in the end, the last phase of the bull, is it going to go higher? Yes. I mean, I don't see how it can't, but as a market technician, I am going to stick to my habits and just say buy the breakout there. Now, could we lower it a little bit? Possibly, but there's also going to be some resistance right in this range. And as we can see, there's a bunch of sellers up in here. So why is that? Are they shorting ETH? Could it be a fake breakout and this rolls over and dumps and comes down again? So I don't know. I'm not ready. I bought a little bit of ETH just in case, but for me, it's not quite there yet. I'm going to put on the camel cycle indicator. Just see that's pretty noisy. Yeah, I won't get into that just yet. I'm doing some interesting studies with Camel's cycle indicator and the ERI, and there's some pretty interesting overlaps. But this, like the ERI, showing a bit of noise, and I don't want to get into that for you guys just yet. But it did call this bottom pretty well on ETH there and these tops. Why I'm showing you this is I think that we're really onto something. Between the early reversal indicator that we created and Camel's cycle indicator, I think there's something, I don't want to say game changing because I don't like that term, but it's really going to be helpful for us going forward in catching these swings. Because if we could catch the swing, the cycle timing roughly to the window of time that it's supposed to happen, and our signals catch the momentum shift, then we have the best of both worlds. And my holy grail would be to collaborate with Camel on that and create a super indicator, but that's tricky to do, as we've been trying to do that with our own indicators with Joe, and I won't get into the technical details. Probably doable, but not there yet. Anyway, total market cap 2. Here's the risk though. On a weekly time frame, we could still sell off, and if that became a red candle with a topping tail, that would be bad, because then we could still roll over if there's some huge bad news around the corner. These are the things to be aware of and make sure that we're de-risking. It's not time to throw caution to the wind. As we go higher, risk increases, and we have to be careful, and I'll be watching these sell blocks. So that's why I think Bitcoin's a safer bet. Some altcoins, looking at total 3, which excludes Ethereum, we're not in a sell block here. We've got room to push, and I think we can push past this, come back, retest, go higher. And by the way, those of you that follow Camel, I challenged him to a squiggle off in the show. He sort of laughed and said, sure, and it's all in good fun, but I think my squiggles have been pretty much on par with his, if not better. We'll see. Anyway, here's resistance price discovery. That's when altcoins really start to fly. And I'm going to redraw this trend line maybe a little bit. We could do 2 of them and give 2 levels of support. So it's cool. What's cool about TradingView, look how it placed it exactly, well, almost exactly where I wanted it. Maybe a little bit down like that. But so that looks bullish. Looking on ahead, David, thank you. Maybe somebody comment if you would go to the episode we did and say, "Hi, thanks for having Crypto Damas on." That'd be great. Let's see, David Gator Bear. Is that a new nickname? Is that David H? Or I'm not sure. We've got like 3 Davids in the group now. Okay, all right. I like the new name. Cool. I sent you a DM on the. I think you already replied on that new study we did and the revised targets. DeFi not looking so good here. Big sell block. I think DeFi is not ready yet, so we'll leave that alone. Let's get into the weeds. Let's get into what we really want to see. I can see USDT dominance is heading lower. That is good. It's inversely related to Bitcoin. So that tells me, because I won't bring it up now, but there's this important trend line that's breaking down below. It's bull rally time. There, I said it. It's bull rally time, guys. It's time to get in. If you're on the sidelines, David, I know you've been out. I think this is time to be getting in the game if you're not already. And so, beautiful breakout there. Good to hear it. Good job on staying out and avoiding all that noise, by the way. In the full bull territory, almost at 113K, you guys. Beautiful. Glad to see we're finally getting there. I was getting a little worried, I'm not going to lie. Solana, let's jump over to Solana here. Bull flag breakout potential. Also, we have a bit of a sell block here, and I think we'll push a little higher, pull back, so there'll be another re-entry around 150. I was based on this. We have to take what the market gives us. I know a few of you on M3 were saying, is 130 still the target on Solana? Yes, it was. New information equals new decision. I can't win them all. This right here, rejecting at the upper trend channel, was, and 2 days before that was very bearish right there. Now we recovered and tested, had no idea which way it was going to go. So this was still the right call, I believe. But then again, we had this big pump. And again, I believe it was from Powell's comments suggesting, hey, you know what, probably 4 rate cuts in the cards to this year or to next year. And then there's some rumors that he may resign. Why would that be important? Obviously, the new administration would put a very let's just say put a friendly in the office, and they would really drop interest rates quicker, and that would rally, start doing QE, and that thing would really run. I'm not going to get into what they're doing with stable coins and encouraging that because they're the biggest buyers of treasuries, and we still have to refinance $7 trillion in debt. But it is, as a reminder, one of my factors here. Where did I put that thing? Oops. There, of where this thing really takes off, right? To revisit that briefly, the only ones that haven't checked off here are global fiat debt bubble, commercial real estate crash. I still think that's coming, and they'll print more for that because that will bring down the banks. But here, flight to quality, this one, which one am I missing here? Pushing creative financing QE to pay down the money debt. I lost my train of thought right there. What was I talking about? Anyway, I'll come back to me. So I'm just super excited about all this market movement. Anyway, CBDCs, yeah, thank you, because CBDCs, which is something we should put on there, I had talked about quantitative easing, and in some form, the CBDCs, actually stable coins, we could argue they're similar, but Tether is the largest buyer, or certainly one of the largest buyers of U.S. Treasuries. The other world, they're not buying our bonds. So we're creating this new vehicle so that basically they're going to sell U.S. bonds to people and institutions in the form of stable coins and CBDCs. So, hey, it's a creative solution. That's why I think this administration is the right team for the job. Business is a game of being survivals and being resourceful with new ideas. We can't stick with old ideas in this environment. So, not going to get into politics, but new ideas is going to get us there. And anyway, with that, of course, don't agree with everything they're doing. Anyway, push up here, retest, push higher on Solana. I think that's it. I am in Solana. It's a tough one. I had a large position of Solana here. In retrospect, in hindsight, maybe I should have just held on to all of it, but I was de-risking and thought we'd buy back lower, back down in this range. So my plan is I'm mostly in Bitcoin. I think that most of the money's going to flow there, and as we go, if I can sell into peaks, I'll be buying up on to the altcoins like Solana and ETH, in other words. So we'll see. Kind of, either way, being in the market at this point is, timing the market from here better than timing the market. A limited number of altcoins I've been in. I have been buying ICP, you guys. ICP here is a buy. I'm sorry I haven't had time to come in and do full buy reports. There's just been so much happening. But let me revisit this. My thesis here is I'm going to focus on altcoins that have the highest potential to old all-time highs. Doesn't mean they get there, but if we're comparing one coin versus another, and the other one is everyone's favorite, but it only has a 2 or 3x potential, we're so spoiled as crypto traders, that's fine, but I would rather be betting on 10x or more opportunities, taking profits along the way. ICP, I'm not married to them or their tech, don't really even know much of what they do. This chart, though, tells the story. Even if it gets back to here in 2021, that's a 10x. I'll be taking profits along the way and ideally taking out the initial investments and also at these sort of rejection points, but keeping a moon bag. So at any rate, I do like the fact that it higher lows, long-term trend line support, buyer support in there. And so not to bet the farm, but that looks like a good swing trade to me, and something that I'm in full disclosure. Filecoin, you guys know, I mean, this is a bit of a wild card, low volume, long-term support. We've talked about this over and over again, but it's one of the few that didn't lose. It did have a throw under here, but often that's a fake out and the time to buy, a capitulation sell-off. So we're starting to see this push up above its 21 and 50-day EMAs on the daily. Weekly chart also looking good. So I would probably hold some of that. I would hold some of this. And so that's a buy as well. I'm being careful not to throw out anything that's we're going to get. We had a lot of fake outs along the way. And so let's keep going, though. I think Ondo Finance is ready. It's a buy. I do own some Ondo here on this weekly chart. Nice long-term parallel trend channel. So I'll post these in the chat in a minute. But as far as prices and where to buy, I just buy at market here. This looks good to me. It's going to go higher. TSI is green. Let's turn on the ERI. These are the signals that are aligned that we want to see. Bullish divergence on the RSI on the weekly, and the daily also looks good there. So Ondo is a buy. Pendle's breaking up and breaking out. Also, I like this a lot, and we discovered that earlier in the week. Pendle looks very good here too. Arthur Hayes likes it. You can Google these. If I have time, I will try to make the official buy signals, the buy alerts by email, but they take a lot of time, and we're a little bit we're cutting back on a little bit on the virtual staff. So at any rate, I'd rather spend the time finding these opportunities for you. So Pendle here, if it breaks above 750, that's a double, but then that's price discovery. So these are the ones we want to watch for. Still holding a little bit of OGN, just a tiny bit. Now, SUI, as of today, also looks good. I would recommend SUI. I put that as a buy in the chat earlier today, I think in M3 at least. So I'll make sure you guys get that. Price discovery, if it gets up here, SUI could be the new Sol. Nice looking chart out of a buy zone on that weekly time frame, turning green on the TSI. So SUI, one to keep in mind. I'm going to mark that as red. I don't own it yet, but I want some. Polkadot. Now here's the thing, and I'm working with more private clients. Guys, we want to limit these, even though I will say Polkadot has 10 to 12 or 13x potential. We saw just declining volume. I would wait on that if and until it gets back above some of these levels. This thing could go sideways. It's not moving up today that much. That's a clue that it's not ready. Now, HNT Helium also looks like a potential 6x down from this region, but they're having some trouble. Bullish divergence on the weekly. It's one to keep an eye on and maybe have a little bit of. Everyone has different size portfolios and capital available. Now, this one, MakerDAO, it has 10x potential. This is a very wide parallel channel here, and if it gets back up in this range, now the thing is, the problem with that is that would be from $2,000 to $25,000, that's a bit of a stretch. So I have to temper that expectation. The trend channel's there. It certainly is, the potential might be there, but I think, if we need to temper expectations on that. It's not one I'm going to put at the top of the list, just something I'm watching. Lido Dow, I've kind of given up on for now. This thing could hold, but I need to see it break this sell block, and look at all the sell pressure up in here on Lido Dow. So it's burned me enough times that I'm not going to go back again. What is it? Fool me once, fool me twice. So this DeFi, as we saw, not looking great, with the exception of Ondo, which is really more real world assets. Stacks, you guys, I love Stacks, but again, this breakdown here really shook me. We were riding this. I was recommending it. There's a problem here. I don't know what it is. And for now, it's kind of dead to me, and I'm going to wait and see. So I think Bitcoin's the play. I would be very careful with alts for the most part down in here and bottom fishing. If you want to be exposed to gaming, we're quadruple bottoming on IMX. But do we want to ride it up? We're still in a downtrend. I just think we have better opportunities. And gaming's not quite there yet. And Axie Infinity, of course, not looking too good. If you guys want me to look at anything interesting, yeah. With mobile being delisted from Coinbase, you think Helium's a dead project, and they killed it when they turned their back on their miners. Yeah, I agree. And switching to Solana might have made sense, switching blockchains, but it killed their miner army, and then the Solana didn't really work out. So long term, maybe they go back to their own blockchain. But they kind of screwed the pooch there, didn't they? So I don't know. That's why, you have to be, guys, I have to tell you, it pays to be sort of ruthless in cutting these things as soon as they look bad. And I know this is retire rich and we're doing our best, but learning some TA, knowing when to kind of cut your losses. I was dumping Helium, I think, back in here. That's the wrong chart, so I can't speculate on that. But it's when these things start to lose their 21 and 50-day moving averages on the daily and weekly, it's time to get out, because that's usually where they're dead. They drop, and they usually bounce and reject, and if they reject, it's over. This may recover, but is it worth the risk? I think it's worth noting. I think they'll survive. They still have that potential network, but mobile had a lot of potential and they killed it. So we'll keep an eye on it. Stranger things have happened. Okay, let's not spend any more time on it. So I'm just going down the road here on these. Let's switch over actually to our inner circle watch list. I was just going over the ones that I'm watching. A Hyperliquid has been looking good. It is one of those. It's not easily bought. It's on their own exchange, or you can buy it on MEXC. Let's kind of take a run down the lane here on the tier ones. We've got Chainlink. Chainlink does look good, but the potential's not that great. If it comes to 40, it doubles, maybe goes up here to triple, but there's a lot of sell pressure on that. It's not that sexy, attractive, and interesting, and there's only so much to go around. Long term, I think these are great coins to own. Compound, though, look at all that sell pressure. I'm so glad we have this order block detector, because it really gives us a look behind the curtain, as far as like the Wizard of Oz analogy, because otherwise we'd say, hey, the trend is your friend. This is a nice upward trending parallel channel, blah, blah, blah. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play? Look at all that blood right there. Look at all the sellers right there. I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. All right, so AIOZ, and look, there's money flows in these markets, and you want to look, well, quadruple bottom, David, sure. You could make that argument, but look at that. It's got rising support. I'll give you that, but I'm not going near it with all those sellers up above. And maybe that clears, but to me, why bother? That's the weekly time frame, and I think there is some buy support. Daily looks a little bit better. If you want to stock some away for 5 or 10 years, I wouldn't argue with that. Some buyers down below here, you might get 150x out of it, and and probably will. Question is, how much money do you want to spread around? And it depends on your goals for this market and also your risk parameters. Let's check out some AIOZ. A lot of these are dead for now and not really doing much. I think that they're not going to have earnings or customers for a while. That's kind of my concern for Filecoin, to be honest, because their biggest customer likely is a decentralized AI project that wants all their data stored in the cloud, but in the blockchain decentralized. And so, as the for-profit AI companies are sucking up all the talent, that's leaving a void with a lot of these AI projects that where their engineers are largely working for equity. And so, with AIOZ, if we start breaking higher, we have some interesting levels up here. But until and unless we do, look at all these charts. I don't like these sell blocks. I don't like it at all. The whole fetch thing, it has to go fetch some more buyers, some more investors. ALI strangely down for the day. This is a long term. ALI might be just a moon or bust. We're not going to really cover it. All right, so that's it for the AI coins. Let's see. Thick ice, thin ice is the key. Exactly, David. Injective, kind of, the chart says it all. Polygon Matic, largely dead. Filecoin, I still like, but chart looks good. But, it has some sell pressure up ahead. I don't know who's selling it. Probably people that bought up here trying to get some of their money back. But for me, this is I'm going to hold it through the end of the cycle. All right, with that in mind, is there anything else you guys want to look at? We've talked about Filecoin, ICP looking good. Helium, getting a little bit of a bounce, but I think it's probably one to avoid. Solana, I would put your money in these quality projects, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Helium. We didn't look at ETH yet. Let's do that. I'm so used to ignoring it that I forgot to click that. But look, man, sorry guys, the sort of slip of the tongue there. The red box, I don't know. Do we get above it or not? The weekly on ETH, this pump is on diminishing volume. Something about ETH. I don't know. I don't trust it. I don't trust this thing yet. All those sellers, cup and handle. I'll believe it over at 3,000. I'll believe it there. FTM, I think it's kind of dead. I mean, maybe they revise and once it goes quiet and ignored, but I don't even have it on my list here. Let's finish our list here. I'll go back to FTM. Sui is looking very good. I called a buy on that earlier today, and M3. This is one to add to the buy list. So this has good potential. I think this easily could come up here into the upper ranges, and we could see a 3 or 4x on Sui, maybe more. Maybe this is the Solana and we get up to $20, but it's at $3, you guys. And the thing is, it has unlimited market cap. So before we get too excited, I would be taking profits here at $4, waiting for a pullback. Let's redraw this squiggle here because I think that it's stretching too far in the future. I got too many things going on in this chart here. I need to let's redraw that. And so we're going vertical. I think probably come up like that, pull back, do this kind of deal, and then price discovery and go. Right? So that puts us into October 25, about what I would expect. And at 8.4, it's a 2x. Can't get terribly excited about that, but we'll know more as we get closer. The rest of these transaction speed ones, Solana should be in here, of course. Aptos just really died. And all those sellers up in there. Does it come back? Maybe, but at best I give it a 2x. So I hate to say it, Aptos, you're dead to me. It's not worth my investment dollars, and I would suggest maybe not worth yours. Sui's at the top of that list. Metis, these I just don't even really want to follow anymore. Diversification at this point doesn't make sense. Metis, Aptos, Cadena, Say is actually looking good. So it's Solana, Sui, and Say in the transaction game. The 3 S's, those are the only 3 that I would really be looking at this point. Cadena, the problem is it's on KuCoin. Look at all that, the sellers. I'm going to just kill these and take them off our list. I don't want to confuse anyone. Our leaders are, and Metis is just, it's Sui, Say, maybe Aptos comes back. I'm not ready to look at that. Oh, wow, look at Sui swap. Just got crushed. Glad I got out of that. It started to look good there for a while, but this is a blown project. Maybe it's a rug pull. Not a good look for Sui. That was their swap network trying to go after the Uniswap. Now Sui pad a little bit better, but geez, I don't know. This is a nice little swing trade, but let's be careful with our coins. TradeFi, of course, we get add Hyperliquid to that, and that's been the big star. And let's see, perpetual hyperliquid tether. You can buy it on their own network, which is the Hype. network. I just want to pull up the spot here for the sake of watching it. So we'll do that. Hyperliquid there. It's up. Let's see. That just got listed. That's not on a weekly time frame. Anyway, Hyperlane. No, it's Hype. So maybe that was the wrong one. Hype is what I wanted. So we went to Hype, Tether, Binance, Perpetual, Hyperliquid US dollar on Pyth. That's close enough. So that's been in a nice uptrend, and we should add it to the list. So I need to do it this way, though. Sorry, I was in the wrong spot, you guys. Okay, Hype kind of lost some momentum there on Pyth. We got it. Okay, not Hyper, but Hype. So coming up in here, let me just add that to the list on the TradeFi. Come on now. Let's see. For God's sakes, come on. GameFi and putting it in. Where's TradeFi? Trying to get it in the right spot. Okay, there we go. DYDX and Hype. Hyperliquid looking pretty good. I think it's coming up into some sell pressure, though, on one of the other exchanges. So, as I recall, I looked at it earlier today. But if it breaks, Hype is one to own. And I know some of the guys here were talking about it way back when. This is a decentralized exchange. They make money on transactions. These are always good businesses. And many people are saying that the centralized exchanges lose favor. The Coinbases, the Binances become less popular because they're centralized and potentially manipulated, higher fees. The decentralized ones don't have that problem, allegedly. We'll see. But anyway, we'll keep an eye on those. Anything else looking good? We talked about Ondo, I think, is a buy. Move that to the top of the list. I'll move Lido to the bottom of the list. Really hard, you guys. Aave is great, but it's already run so far. I'm not really inclined to touch it. Lots of sellers up in here, lots of overbought, so we don't want to chase those. Griffin is a Russian project, and it's on MEXC. The chart looks really good, though. This thing had a hell of a run last time. And I'll have to read up on it. I do like the chart quite a bit on this. It's on MEXC. Let's see where Griffin is elsewhere. It's not one you're going to find on a Coinbase. It's on KuCoin. The reason these run is these are all leverage trading platforms. But if you have access to it, these are risky, but that is a beautiful looking chart. I am not going to lie. And from here to the old high, that's a 10x, you guys. If you guys want a 10x, I would put some in Hyper and in Griffin. Forgive my gaffe there. Sometimes I pull up about to say bad things, and then I'm like, hold my beer for a minute. This chart looks amazing. Higher lows curving up on the 21 and 50. If we put on the EMA ribbon, that's starting to tighten. Once it gets back above, assuming it will, but the risk reward ratio on this is amazing, because if we put it right there and trading view, you killed me. And they don't like logarithmic view for some reason. Okay, let me put it back. Where is that? There it is. Still, they make it all funky. It has to do with logarithmic view. I finally figured that out, my nemesis. So if we put a tight stop on that and we put it up to that level, this is a 31 risk reward ratio. I'll take that all day long. I'll take anything above 3 is good. What does this mean? Put your stop loss below these buy blocks, so down in this range. You could even tighten it to make it an even better ROI, but I would put it below these buy blocks, because essentially it could double bottom here and keep going, but you don't want to risk it. I'd put it right down in that range if we bought at that level, with a target up here of around 57 cents. And that would be a 10x, you guys. So there you go. How many of you like that? I'm going to take a screenshot of that. All right, it works again. My screenshot taker was on the Blitz. Had to reboot the War Machine. Problem is I got to turn on the other monitor to grab that. Let's see. How we doing on time, everybody? I don't want to make these too long. We're going to try to get this out to everybody faster. So we're in kind of speed mode. So with that, let's see. The rest of these, I'm going to skim. I don't see anything that deserves our attention here. Oh, but look at that, Brett token. All right, I take that back. I always say that right as I find something worth noting. Brett token looking good. I am not saying that because it has the best meme name ever. next to Boner Coin, which apparently is the thing. And they're planning to launch their own blockchain, everybody, called the Heart. I'm not going to sell you. And anyway, Bread Token. So right out of a buy zone, for potential 4x, but into price discovery zone. The reason this could go is this is on base chain, and Coinbase, I think, will help promote it. And so this also is a good looking chart. But you know, look, the meme coins, be careful. Bonk may be a better one. How we doing on Bonk? But they're running head to head. Maybe see the problem with Bonk here is it's got some sell resistance, and but the chart on this, no sell resistance here on Bybit. Now let me look at it on MEXC. Pretty close. You can I own some on MEXC. Get rid of that fib retracement. But at any rate, maybe if you want to play meme coins, Pepe's looking pretty good here too. Hey guys, I want to talk about some stocks. Coinbase breaking into new highs. This is one you want to own long term. It is it's exactly retesting the high back in 2021. So I have an alert here for breakout. Coinbase is a future Netflix, Amazon. I would buy it in bull markets and sell it in bear markets. It's that easy. If you want some easy returns for long term, buy it and hold it 10 years, or buy in bull markets, sell in bear markets. Why? Because their transaction volume falls, their earnings fall. That's going to smooth out a little bit though, because they bought Deribit, and Deribit is an exchange that they make money on the derivatives, perpetual futures. That means on shorting on the downside and the upside, as well as options. So I think it's a good time to buy Coinbase, and here's why. Let's look at this giant macro cup and handle. I'm just erasing some of the squiggles there. Big cup and handle. I think there is even an indicator for it, although I'm old school. I like to draw it rather. But let's see. Is there that cup and I thought I saw a cup and handle signal there. I'm not suggesting I know how to use it, but anyway, let's just draw it because that's easier anyway. All right, ready? Big cup. I'm gonna undo that and do it in red. I like this in red here. So, all right, I'm slowing this down. All right, never mind. We'll do a big cup. Here's the handle. I'm running into something over here with my mouse. Here's the handle, and here's the water in the cup boiling the soup. There you go. Price discovery above the handle, off to the races. I would say, look, guys, take some profits along the way and just put it in Coinbase. This thing's not going anywhere. We have a pro Bitcoin and crypto SEC. They're in the green. The government's not going to let them fail. They want them around. Okay, it's different. So, and also Robinhood breaking into new highs. This thing's about to go, you guys. Massive cup and handle there. You know, crypto's volatile. I would say, depending how much you have in your portfolios, put some money in these. DFDW is DeFi Development Company. Look at this thing. Money just pouring in. We missed the boat on that. But if this comes down and retests that $4 range, I would say buy that sucker, because they are investing in DeFi projects. They see the future, you know, and you know, retire rich is not all about crypto. And so we want to say that for longer term buy and hold, I would say, you know, have some Bitcoin, but Coinbase, Robinhood, DeFi Development Company, Palantir I'm watching just because it's maybe one to trade options are, and nobody really knows what they do. Some people do, but I'm not going to chase that. Maybe that's a good long-term one. We'll have to see. I'll look at some macro things on that. MicroStrategy hitting some bearishness up in here. If it gets above 584, but I think it's kind of had its run. I don't know. It's, for me, it just doesn't resonate. So there's some miners in here. Wolf, I'm not a miner guy. We're watching these, but I'm just also looking for other opportunities. CRISPR Technologies, Apple. You know, Apple's having some bad news that they apparently had paid Xi Jinping $1 trillion to do business in China. I don't know, you guys. Now, this is an interesting one. Coupang, I mentioned it before. It's kind of the Korean Alibaba, and it's on a nice steady trend. I'll move that up on the list, kind of around Palantir, but we're getting into the weeds. I don't want to get too far away from technology. You know, NVIDIA, of course, just never stopping. And that's one that should be in everyone's portfolio if you have the extra money. Point being is if and when we make a lot of money on crypto this cycle, start keeping your eye on some of these things to put money into. Prior Moonstream pick, Jupiter, not quite there yet. I think these are a bit on the fringe. Stacks, Pendle, we talked about. Pendle and Ondo I like here. That's about all I want to talk about, you guys. Let me skim through and see. I might just look at Celestia, though. I know that's a Moonstream pick and was looking interesting on the chart. Let's see here. Citus and Dogecoin. Citus looks interesting, but well, it's not easy to buy, but I like that chart. It's just the volume's non-existent. You probably don't want to play around with that. That would be a Hail Mary. Dogecoin actually looks pretty good, you guys. Huh. Meme coin, I'm moving that in the meme coin category. We should have had it in there, of course. It's the oldest meme in there. The Doge, zero utility, but none of them have any utility. The benefit they have is they onboard people into crypto. Where's my meme coins? Didn't I have a meme coin section? I thought I did. I'm gonna put it here for a second. Where are the meme coins at? Brett token, was it down here? Memes, I missed it. I'm sorry, you guys. Let me just put that where it belongs. Little housekeeping here. Where did the Dogecoin go? I missed it by a mile. All right. Any last call? Anything you guys want me to look at before we wrap up here? These recordings get super big and unmanageable the longer they are. So Dogecoin, dare I say it, is Mike on? I would never say it if he was. Good thing he had to leave. He would probably hit me with a fish if I recommended Dogecoin. But look at that chart, everybody. I think this could easily, I'm going to be careful with saying easily, I think this could go to the upward trend channel. And that would give us, based on the chart, I'm just going to pseudo recommend this. I won't outwardly recommend it, but based on the chart, Dogecoin could go up 262% to the upper trend channel. And if it breaks this is price discovery, that would give it an even bigger push, potentially, keyword. And I don't know, how do you like them apples? So we'll set an alert. Dogecoin over 47 cents. Let's call it 49 cents. Dogecoin. Above 50, call it, say 50 cents. We'll say 49 cents. And we'll put a buy Doge treats. It's funny enough, I'm going to a dinner party tonight with a random woman that I met at a party over the 4th of July weekend in an alley, who's a recovering attorney, but also makes dog treats. And apparently they're better than greenies. And so as a former pet store owner, I was like, that sounds like a great business. So I'm going to be at our dinner party tonight. Maybe I'll recommend Dogecoin and promptly get thrown out of the house. Okay, look at that, you guys. Weekly chart looks pretty good. We have an ERI. We have a bullish divergence. And, I'll trade sheep or goats if I like the chart. That's a bit noisy, but 2.5x beats a sharp stick in the eye. Guys, I'm going to go out on a limb. Yeah, Wolf, exactly, Dr. T. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Dogecoin on the list. Looks pretty good. And, as does Brett token. I'll throw that in, but not as good. Not as good. Dogecoin for the win. Okay. Don't tell Mike I said that. All right, everybody. On that note, I'm going to let you go. Have a great week, everyone. And so the recommendations are in here. I've kind of mentally written them down. I'll put them in the chat. But time to deploy capital here. Always good to have some backup. But, are you going to regret not having more in some of these? I'm not 100%. We're not 100% in the bull yet. But we are pretty much, I think it's time to go for it. With some reservations, if we kind of sell off end of day, I'd save some powder. How about this? I'd save some powder for end of day if for some crazy reason these things sell off, but I can't see that happening. And I don't see that happening looking over at my other charts here and just looking at the 1 hour, 4 hour. This looks really solid. We're at 113,650, everybody. Short squeeze incoming. I'd say we push to 115 and get a big boost, because there's like $70 billion in shorts at that 115K level. They're going to run it, you guys. Watch them run it, and those shorts are going to run for the exits and pump it even higher. We could hit 120K maybe by end of day or tomorrow. Let that sink in. All right, everybody. Good class. Have a great week. Go look at your positions. Do some management. Your long holding meme coins and other things that are underperforming. You may want to sell half and reallocate to some of these that are about to go higher. That would be my recommendation. I'm not sold on ETH yet, but it's looking better. I just want to make sure if we can hold this. This is resistance right here. If this sell block goes away, then I'd say on the weekly time frame, end of week, then I'd say ETH is there. But look at all that sell pressure above on ETH still. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. If the whales are coming in, what are they going for? Why are there all these sellers? I have so many questions. So ETH, Sol, Bitcoin, lead with those. Filecoin and ICP, Ondo, Pendle. Those are the ones on my radar. At Dogecoin and the meme coins, Doge and Bretcoin for memes. Sui and Say also in the transaction space. That's it. Okay, everyone. Bye.